Ladies and gentlemen, if the stock market were a piece of fabric, and to be clear, it's not a piece of fabric, it's a collection of numbers that go up and down, and nobody really knows why. But if it were a piece of fabric, then right now it wouldn't be ripping in half like an old pair of trousers at a job interview. No, it's more like a jumper. A really nice one you've had for years that still looks respectable if you squint. But up close, you can see that it's starting to gather those wee clumps of fluff. We call them poogies, oogles. Nobody's really sure. But they're irritating wee baubles that appear when fabric rubs against itself, which is exactly what's happening in the global economy. Companies are rubbing up against tariffs, customers are rubbing up against higher prices, and the result is economic poogies turning up all over the surface. Now, a poogie doesn't ruin your jumper. You can still wear it, especially if you only need to look good from a distance, which is perfect for the stock market, because from across the room or across the garden, it looks fine. The charts are going up, the indices are green, and everyone's saying, oh, look, the markets are doing good. But if you look closely, you'll see that the damage is already underway. The jumper is not torn, but it's certainly not smooth. The tariffs have worked their way into the system like a bad washing powder. At first, everyone thought, oh, that's not too bad. The colours haven't run. Nothing's shrunk. That's because companies were absorbing much of that extra cost on behalf of the consumer, like someone taking the jumper out of the washing machine, telling themselves it's fine, until it really starts to itch because they've used that non-bio, or the bio, whichever. They've used the wrong one. But the illusion, it's starting to disappear. The real effects are dawning. Prices are rising, inflation is fraying the edges, and the Fed is standing there with the lint roller, desperately trying to smooth things out, without admitting that everything is starting to look a little bit shabby. They know that inflation is going to spike, so they're holding off, waiting, cautious, like someone who knows the jumper is too delicate to survive another spin cycle. So where does that leave you? Markets, they're not in tatters, they're still very wearable, but they're also not pristine. The markets have got poogies, and as anyone who's tried to pull off a poogie knows, you can't. It leaves a weird bit of string or a stupid annoying hole. Either way, the jumper will never be the same again. And that's where the economy stands, not broken, not ruined, but definitely covered in those poogies, visible proof that something is rubbing the wrong way. I've just returned from down south, you might have noticed, where I was working on an algorithm, which, to be clear, is just a fancy word for telling a computer to do something, but in a way that makes other people think you're clever. This particular algorithm was designed to take advantage of all that money flowing out of America into safer destinations, like here in Britain, big, beautiful British cash. In the US markets, things are starting to look a little bit grim, and that'll also head into the dollar. So a lot of money is tiptoeing into stronger equities. And if there are no stronger equities, we're looking at cash, and that cash being British pounds, because they're better for buying the dip than American dollars. In the same way that a pound coin feels like it's worth more than a crappy dollar bill. Let's face it, it looks like something you get out of a toy game. Here, back in Scotland, where the sun was shining earlier, but it doesn't do that at this time of the day, which is unusual enough to count as breaking news, probably, definitely, certainly. I was permitted entry thanks to Keir Starmer's 1 in, 1 out policy, a bit like the bouncers at a nightclub. Instead of saying your trainers look too white, they tell you your face doesn't look white enough. JD Vance got himself a little bit of a cold. That created a gap for me. So I was the one in, he was the one out. And that's how immigration works now. It's called musical germs. As I've regained my Scottish freedom, I'm putting it to good use in the garden with Rocky. It's a little patch of ground where we pretend to control nature. After all, there's not much difference between gardening and economics. In both cases, you plant something, wait around, hope it grows, and you're secretly thinking there's not got much of a chance. You're going to have to plant a number of them, playing a game of probabilities. So here I am, back from those London algorithm, past the Westminster velvet rope, ushered in by Starmer's bouncer logic and JD Vance's sniffle, standing here where there was earlier some Scottish sunshine, watering plants that didn't care and pretending it's all part of the plan. And I'm here to tell you, quite obviously, you'll have understood, that's the sort of intro that comes before someone says, everything is not going to be okay. People always say everything will be fine, but that's just because they've run out of anything else to say. Please don't panic, or this might hurt. But right now, we're not calmly cruising along the motorway with the window down and the radio on. We're instead dedicated followers of fashion, not in the same sense of wearing particular clothing brands, but certainly is following certain market trends. It's exactly the same as fashion. Instead of changing your shoes, you dump your portfolio. It's not this road we're seeing ahead. It's not coming with some gentle bends. We know what's happening. There's a 180-degree hairpin coming round the corner, and none of us are slowing down because we're not driving. We're taking it at full speed. And the driver, who's the president, has confused the accelerator pedal with a confidence pedal. So you're in the back seat and you can't even see the road ahead. You've just got a view of the back of his head. I'm in the passenger seat. Usually the passenger seat is the useless position, but I'm making myself useful by building a DIY airbag. And to be clear, I don't know how airbags work. I assume it's some sort of a balloon that inflates when the car gets upset. Mine is more of a plastic bag. I blew into it, taped it up, and stuck it on the dashboard. But I'm still quite confident it'll save us. The thing is, something will go wrong. Stomachs will turn, metal will hit metal, and your tiny human bones, which are essentially just little brittle sticks wrapped in skin, they cannot handle the type of pressure that's coming, and neither can the markets. You are just a little bit of overcooked spaghetti in a vice, and you don't need to be an expert in cooking crap to know that's going to snap. So here you are, dedicated follower of fashion, buckled up in the back seat, the total fuckless position. This is an economic rally car heading for a U-turn that nobody asked for, and you're protected only by a poorly inflated Tesco carrier bag. And the truth is, everything is not going to be okay. More on that tiny airbag now. This DIY one, question is it going to save us, or is it full of custard? Because nobody really knows what's inside an airbag. Some people think it's gas, other people think it's magic, but it could just as easily be custard, because custard, very dangerous now, very important to pay attention. Custard in an airbag is very dangerous because custard isn't designed to stop your face hitting the dashboard unless your face is made of trifle, which mine doesn't happen to be. Custard, also an awful lot like debt, not in the literal sense, though if you owe your neighbour a pint of custard, I'm sure it probably is. No, in the metaphorical sense. For one thing, elephants can hide upside down in it. There's no proof of that, but it sounds so true it's difficult to argue with. For another, custard, very easy to make, just like debt. Throw in some ingredients, stir it up, and suddenly you've got more of it than you know what to do with. Custard, also like debt, tends to get reheated quite frequently, and nobody really knows if it ever goes off. People just keep on eating it, or in this case, borrowing it, until eventually everybody throws up. Our little DIY airbag is LivePerson. They've just reduced their debt by $350 million. That sounds impressive, which it is. They've managed to scrape half the custard off the table in one full sweep. But the price of this cleanup was dilution, nearly 40%, which means for every new share issued, about $350 in debt was wiped away. And $350, that's a very curvaceous number, the kind of number that looks good in the mirror, especially compared to the current share price, which looks like it's in desperate need of a cheeseburger. Now, dear friends, we return to the kitchen. Yes, that's right, Jamie is in the kitchen. I'm outside the kitchen, but I'm basking in its glow in lieu of that sunshine. And when I'm in that kitchen or adjacent to it, people expect cheeseburgers and custard, a meal that makes no sense, but somehow also explains everything. Let me tell you why. Because those of you who really know me, who were here for Carvana and everything before, now the airbag's starting to make sense, you've got your hands on very sticky custard and survived. You know that on the menu for now is only fish fingers. Simple, repetitive, always slightly disappointing, but dependable. And a reminder then that sometimes you don't get the meal you asked for, you get the meal you're given, which is very much what the markets likes to do, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are, having spoken about Poogies on jumpers, about custard in airbags, and about fish in fingers in kitchens. And you might be wondering, what does any of this have to do with Walmart? Walmart is the jumper. From far away, it looks fine, neat, respectable, even fashionable in a suburban normcore beige way. It's, in fact, the fabric of America's cupboards. But up close, those Poogies are everywhere. They're dripping off Americans like tariffs, rubbing against prices, consumers rubbing against their wallets. And Walmart is wearing the baubles for everyone to see. Walmart also its own kind of airbag, because when the economy slams on the brakes, people don't stop shopping. They just stop shopping for nice things, and they instead shop for custard and fish fingers. And Walmart has industrial quantities of both. The question is, will the airbag inflate with safety, or will it explode with custard? Because their debt margins are under pressure, and custard doesn't stop your face hitting the dashboard. Walmart is finally also the kitchen. When things get tough, you don't dine on lobster thermidor. This isn't 1700. You eat fish fingers. You don't treat yourself to a Michelin star cheeseburger. You grab the multi-pack frozen version from the freezer aisle. Walmart's earnings tell us what's being served up in American households. The nation, if it's still eating, if the earnings miss, then even those fish fingers have gone too dear. So when Walmart reports this coming week, the market won't just be reading the numbers, it'll be reading the nation's fridges. Will it be full of custard and fish fingers showing resilience in the face of tariffs, or will there just be empty shelves with one sad cheeseburger patty at the back going off as it signals demand has snapped, like your little spaghetti bones in that car crash that's coming? So here we are, all rolling this up, all the custard, the poogles, the airbags, the fish fingers, stuffing it into one giant pudding. How very Scottish. The truth is, everything is not going to be okay. It's extremely dangerous, and you are just like that brittle spaghetti. Things will be disgusting, but it will be available in bulk at discount in the freezer aisle. So now we're going to quickly check out the LivePerson charts, which I know you're excited about. This, ladies and gentlemen, is that chart. As you can see, price action has been putting in higher and higher lows. Broke out of this downward sloping resistance, returned to it with a gap which leaves price action in an island with a gap above, a gap below. And a sensible trader then guided to the best value entry, likely somewhere close to or approximate to this rising low trend line. in at around 79.80 cents. You can see that breaking back above $1, while proving quite difficult at the minute, could lead to a move to close that gap around 117. Any higher than that, you'd be looking at measuring the relative strength between these two moves and the retracement ahead of that return to the top side, which at the minute is as deep as a golden pocket. So any further, we could expect the bottom gap to close, which means we're in a very tight range and price action then not moving very much at all until there's a break. If we put it on the teeny tiny time frames, you can see as price action looks like a sheet of music, as Rocky was saying to me earlier today as we studied price. On the 30-minute time frame, you've got those gaps clear and a positive target to the top side in a Rocky Outcrop flash. I'll let you get the Rocky Outcrop flash. It's very easy. It's at Rocky Outcrop's Patreon, which itself a very easy URL to find, www.patreon.com/Rocky Outcrop. You also get access to the premium side of Discord. Anyway, that tells you where price action is going to the top side. It's very exciting. Below, I can tell you now that you get a really good buy in at around 80 cents. Anything higher than that, likely also quite a good buy in the longer term. If we're looking at it with our indicators on the daily time frame, you can see that back above that center line would be very significant on the RSI. Not quite made it there yet. Previous to that, there was a lower high on the RSI, which suggests a failure swing. And so price action then looking for support, just as we're looking for price action to find it. What would it look like? 236 on that macro time frame takes you in at around 80 cents on the daily time frame, which is also where we found those higher lows. So all of that confluence coming together, very positive. In order to cut this anchor of the 236, the higher low support in the previous failure swing, you need a recovery in price action that demonstrates it's more significant than that which took it down. So the buoying action as it rises to the top side would include a change in the rate of change itself, so some acceleration and then a distinct character in the momentum behind price from that previous phase, which is what we're going through at the minute. So things to look for. And if you want to know more about that, definitely take the course, www.technicalanalysis.school. Now down to the 4-hour time frame. Similar, you've got that resistance at the top side. Failure swing confirmed that there was a little bit of a double top in that area with the way nature of the RSI itself then putting in a head and shoulders formation. You've got that move on momentum. And holy signet, you've got the move on price action just afterwards. So what comes next, ladies and gentlemen? Sometimes these metaphors, shows, and communication in general can be self-referential, and you might need to then have watched every show to follow along. You'll not get any sympathy from me if you've missed them, because the lessons that are learned include a degree of time, and that time is an important ingredient in the mix. You are really the food. So price action here, 236, breaking 126, that'd be very significant. I'd see that as very much a ceiling in the short term. I'm looking for it to come in around 80 cents, very positive, likely slows at 88, a lot of liquidity in that area, closing a gap below, but not the true level of support long term. So that's what we're looking at on LivePerson. You can support the show, patreon.com/tradespotting. Join the premium side of Discord with Rocky Outcrop's Patreon. Take the course and learn to trade for yourself. And I think LivePerson's a great opportunity. If you want to thank me for what I've done today, feel free to use the YouTube super chat function. The link to stream elements in the chat box or in the description below. And you can always find me on Rocky Outcrop's Discord. And the best of are there all the time.